Mary Bruce, ABC News. Good morning. What a difference a day makes, J Dog. We were just talking about this, about a 20-degree temperature swing already. It's gray and overcast in the capital region. Seacoast, Seacoast, and good morning up into Portland, Maine, York County, or right up into Kittery and so forth, Portsmouth, Rochester, Dover, Hampton, Rye, and you name it. Good morning. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning nationally. Thousands of you are streaming as well. In addition to our News Talk network of AM and FM stations, we have you blanketed in the Lakes region. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the pulse of an H. I hear from some folks, and when I say that, their smart device actually starts playing that at home. So there you go. Hope you're having a good start, even though it's a weather change. So midpoint in the week. 1 week from today, though, 1 week from today, we are into our Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals right here. And my 10th annual Mike Pomp will kick it off in the morning early, and then we go all day, 12 hours commercial free for our veterans, thanks to some great sponsors. And Jay Jid, recently, yesterday, Bank of New Hampshire locally jumped on board as a sponsor. Coca-Cola, many others, and we go wall to wall. 1 week from today, 12 hours, the only broadcast, telethon, radiothon we're aware of in the country that is exclusively devoted for 12 hours for our veterans. Isn't that cool and neat for us here? But isn't that a sad statement nationally? All this chaos, all the stuff, all the stuff happening on university campuses, commencements being canceled. How about that? George Washington University police cleared the encampment of the agitators at George Washington. I remember after October 7th, that same week, before the bodies were even buried in Israel after the attack by the Hamas terrorist group. Let's stop mincing words here. There was an image of a side of a campus building at George Washington University. It said, "Glory to the martyrs." Yeah. Despite all this stuff, despite debate about who's entitled to what, undocumented, here, whatever, less than 1% serve 330 million Americans in the military. Less than 1%. 12 hours 1 week from today, my 10th annual Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count. You can check out the organization at vetscount.org. Let's get back to some of the news. By the way, Jetty, before we bring in, we're bringing in John Decker. I wanted to comment on that Tom Brady roast. Ouch. I watched about 10 or 12 minutes, 15 minutes of it on Netflix last night. I'm going to come back to J-Dog on this. Whoa. Take that kind of took the woke political correctness stuff and blew it up. Kevin Hart, and who's the comedian, Jeff, he does all the roast, J-Dog? Oh, my good. No punches held, J-Dog. Even like the whole divorce stuff with Giselle and, oh my goodness. Wow, I couldn't even watch about 15 minutes, but we'll come back to that. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, live this morning and talking so much to talk about. But Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene still focused, still this whole stuff on the House Speaker and the vote. Take it away, John. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and I wasn't aware, but I did catch it over the weekend that Trump would sort of step in to quell this, to show a couple things. Really, I think he does. He did have that meeting with Johnson. I think it's just exactly as you said, but also it kind of does show on the Republican side who the kingmaker is a little bit, if you know what I mean. Good point. John Decker, thank you. John Decker, our own White House correspondent. We have a full show for you this morning. We're going to be hearing from this morning Governor Chris Sununu live in the 10 o'clock hour. Governor joins us in our network of news talk stations, the Pulse of an H, Good Morning New Hampshire and beyond. Governor is going to talk somewhat about the college situation on campuses here. It's been quieter per capita than places like Columbia or UC. I think it was UCLA, or I can't. So many now. It's become this orchestrated movement here. Governor is holding firm. It's interesting. There's Michael Graham's outfit, New Hampshire Journal, has a story on the uh, on the basically the a couple stories, but I want to pop this one up. This is on the group that just had the what was it 2 days ago, J-Doc, the University of New Hampshire, May 6th, the walkout. They had their protest. The Palestinian protest organization demands apology from the UNH president, calls President Dean, James Dean's his real name, the president at UNH, disgrace to academia. Disgrace. They're mad at the police for making the arrest at UNH. They're mad at the governor. The group rejects the arguments made by Governor Chris Sununu, as well as many Jewish organizations, that calling for Palestine to be free from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic. What are you, morons? It also defends its calls for intifada. We maintain our position from our previous statement and demand an apology from James Dean. And additionally, demands that all charges are dropped, that UNH fully divest from Israel, and the resignation of Senior Vice Provost Kenneth Holmes and UNH Police Chief Paul Dean. During an interview, this basically, it's just interesting. Okay, so you're not anti-Israel, you're not anti-Semitic, and you want the university to divest all ties with Israel, but you're not anti-Israel, you're not anti-Semitic, but you want the university to divest all ties from Israel. Oh, really? Oh, okay. From the river to the sea. Do you realize that most ninth graders in America that read a page or two of history would consider that anti-Semitic, the elimination of Israel from the river to the sea? This statement that most 9 out of 10 commonsensical people would say absolutely is anti-Semitic. Do you also support Hamas? Are they a peaceful, driven terrorist organization? Do you even know what their covenants are? Hamas is an organization, a political terrorist organization. Do you know number one? Do you know what the number one mission of Hamas is? I'm asking the bubble wrap kiddies over at Durham, the few people, because most people over there do have more oxygen going to their brains. The few. Do you realize that Hamas's number one mission is to obliterate Israel? And you're not anti-Semitic, you're not anti-Israel, but yeah, you want your university to divest all ties with Israel. You want the president fired. You want the police fired because they had no business arresting you, even though you were resisting arrest. Oh, and by the way, from the river to the sea is now peaceful. And that's not anti-Semitic. Isn't it amazing how people can just rationalize in their heads whatever they want? I remember once, I guess it's long enough time. Not enough time has passed on the Pamela Smart murder trial way back here in New Hampshire. I remember Paul Maggiotto, an incredible prosecutor with the Attorney General's office, and Diane Nicolosi, the two of them, Batman and Robin, are the dynamic duo, and they convicted her. By the way, with no physical evidence, they convicted her. The Cecilia Pierce, the wire. But I don't want to get into the Pamela Smart story. But Paul Maggiotto told me once that Pamela's smart, and some people like this that are so narcissistic, they're never wrong. He said she has convinced herself and could probably pass any polygraph or lie detector test that she had absolutely nothing to do with her husband's murder, even though she indirectly killed him by getting the young men that she was having sex with to go kill him. She convinced in her mind, because she wasn't at the house and didn't pull the trigger, she had nothing to do with her husband's murder, and she probably would pass it. So these students say, we're not anti-Israel. They believe they're not. I'll leave it at that. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Come back, we'll tell you about some of the other news talk of the day. Stormy Daniels in court yesterday. Wow. No TV cameras. Imagine the ratings on that one. Also coming up, we are going to hear from Governor Chris Sununu this morning, some of our political analysts and all-stars as well, and we're going to hear from some of our folks who are supporting our effort next Wednesday, 1 week from today. Make 12 hours count for Veterans Count. Back on Good Morning Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age in a moment. All right, we're just about 9:20 on a Wednesday, and what a pretty dramatic change in the weather. I'm looking out studio windows. We got the huge windows here. I'm looking out. It's like gray and ah, where's the sun of yesterday? It was beautiful yesterday, up near 70 or into the 70s, even over on the coast. It's a gorgeous day. And here we are, about 20 degrees cooler and gray. So next few days. Hey, welcome back. I want to take a moment and educate the kiddies out there, the few kiddies now, because I'm now changing my narrative a little bit on this college campus chaos. The agitators, not the paid professional adult agitators who will go in and if you pay them enough, they'll teach you how to shut down a highway or occupy Wall Street or I don't know, stop the pig scrambles out there. Um, and of course, I can't believe the group over in Durham that is not anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, or anti anything, calling the police piggies, pig, whatever they were calling. Michael Graham, by the way, if you want to hear the audio of their profound maturity, you can go to nhjournal.com, and he's got the audio from them the other day, blaming the police, blaming the college president, blaming everyone but themselves. But I wanted to educate some of the bubble wrap kiddies who don't understand. So if you've never, and by the way, a great program for you next year for some of these kids, a great, and some of their professors who are pushing this, a great program for you. I'm serious. Would be a sabbatical, a semester abroad. How about you go to Tehran, Iran, in Iran? Go to Tehran and study. Why don't you go there for a whole year next year? And maybe it'd be great if you never came back. Seriously, go to Tehran and study for a semester abroad. Like some people go to Paris, they'll go to London. Why don't you go to Tehran? So Tehran supports financially Hamas, and they also in Gaza they support the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ. These groups maintain they're independent of Tehran, but if someone funds you and pays for you, who's your boss? Tehran openly has called for the obliteration of Israel. Tehran has openly and in different forms around the world over the last 20, 30 years tried to make the case that the Holocaust during World War II never happened. And their number one mission is to eliminate Israel from the river to the sea. And these students who claim that they're just pro-Palestinian, pro-peace at UNH, from the river to the sea, knowing full well that the real definition of that is the elimination of Israel. Clear the path from the river to the sea where Israel is. That's that's the that's the meaning of that statement. So they claim that they're not anti-Semitic. Oh, okay. And they say that they're only for peace, but you want to eliminate Israel, just like Hamas and Tehran. You want President Dean to be fired. You're not anti-Israel, but you want Israel to fully divest from anything associated with Israel. You want the senior vice provost, Kenneth Holmes, to be fired. You want the UNH police chief to be fired. By the way, UNH Durham, I had a couple kids go there. Probably one of the safer per capita. We just got this ranking. We're going to have Governor Sununu on in a little bit in the next hour. He'll address some of this stuff. New Hampshire was just named, as I said yesterday in the show, the second best state in America to live in. Part of it had to do with crime and safety, law and order. See, believe it or not, this matters to some people. Law and order, respect the rules. You can protest the rules peacefully, but you don't start calling for, from the river to the sea, some of these schools, chanting things like death to Israel. By the way, a lot of this is just anti-American. It's not even about Israel and Hamas. It's pretty much anti-American, but UNH Durham is probably one of the safest per capita colleges, major universities, good size that I know of in the country. In terms of public safety, they do a phenomenal job there. If you've ever been to an event, a football game, a hockey game, Chief Dean over there Paul's done an incredible job for many years keeping people safe. The UNH police chief, and I knew the late Nick Haley, one of the late state police commanders was chief for a while, but Paul's done an excellent job over there. When they have big events, big football games or whatever, a very safe place. Stuff happens everywhere, but very safe per capita. So you want the police chief fired. Why? Because he made some arrests last week, because you were told to leave an area, warned over and over again, these are the rules of your peaceful protest. Don't break the rules. And by this time, whatever, like Dartmouth and Hanover a week or so ago, we're going to clear the area. I'm just saying, like at 9 o'clock. If you're still there, we're going to ask you one last time nicely, and eventually you're going to be arrested for resisting arrest. And you're going to blame the chief for that. Because you want to sleep out and do the encampment thing, like they just took down one at George Washington University, or finally at Columbia. And you notice these schools, even the most liberal, are finally clearing these areas. So it's just kind of interesting, the hypocrisy, but I've talked a lot about that on the show before. By the way, switching gears before we go to the bottom of the hour, isn't it amazing? And by the way, tomorrow morning, top of the nine, we're going to be one of my guests later on this morning, Governor Chris Sununu at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about a lot of the news of the day live here. Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an age. Tomorrow, kicking off the show, this is interesting. Representative Chris Pappas, Democrat first congressional district incumbent, is calling for action of the Biden administration on the southern border. Wow. He wants them to take action to better address security at the southern border. This is Chris Pappas, and he's going to be on the show talking about this, and I applaud him for this. He's a co-sponsor. He and other Democrats are calling on their own president to do a better job. By the way, that issue showed up in that ABC poll, the U.S.-Mexico border and the immigration crisis and security and lack of it at the border. People care about it. On that one, I think Trump had a 17-point advantage over Biden in this poll of 2,200 American voters, less than 6 months now. I mean, 6 months now voting in November. So, but the other story is, you hear about the Mike Pomp was talking about it this morning on our Morning Information Center. We had a news report yesterday on my show, Good Morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of Nation. Social Security, Medicare, this is non-sustainable. Going to run out. They're going to have to start so if you're planning and you've paid in, you're planning to, turn 67 or 70, your full retirement age. Let me just be crystal clear on this. I think it's 2035. If you're planning to retire and get your Social Security benefits, they may only be able to pay you a portion of those because the funds are running out. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have a $35 trillion debt. No one talks about cutting spending. Well, folks, do you realize I've interviewed veterans for my Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count next week? Do you know how many veterans and listeners out there, many people listening who might be retired or semi-retired? That Social Security check, if you're a couple, is probably 80% of your existence. If you don't have that with inflation and everything else, you're going to run out of food. I've interviewed veterans region, and the rent gets over $2,800, $3,000 a month. They don't have anything left. Where's the alarm today from this administration or anyone in Washington? We need to have a week-long summit. I said this years ago when they got together on the baby formula. Remember the baby formula shortage? They were able to get together the baby formula manufacturers. Where's the week-long summit in Washington? All parties, all politics, get together. We need to save Social Security and Medicare as America ages. What are we going to do about it? What do you do about our debt? Where's the alarm on that, by the way? Where is it? I'm not hearing it. Are you? All right, going to take a quick break. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of NH. Game 2 tonight in Florida, Bruins, Panthers. I think the puck will drop at 8, and I don't expect a 5-1 victory for the Bruins, but I'll take a 2-1 victory or 1-0. All right, we're going to take a break. Brad Card, one of our political analysts and all-stars, Card and Associates on deck. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of NH. A little bit later on, Governor Chris Sununu live in the next hour. Tomorrow morning, Representative Chris Pappas live as well. Back on the Pulse of NH in a moment. I just want to quick edit from my last story. This is from Michael Graham. Um, Basically, the UNH kiddies say they're not anti-Israel. They denounce the American flag, that dirty rag. This Nazi flag is some of their rhetoric, but they basically have been chanting, some of them, "U.S. Israel, go to hell. U.S. Israel, go to hell." It's the Palestinian Solidarity Coalition. They say that they're only supporting the people of Palestine and they're not anti-Semitic or not anti-Israel. U.S. Israel, go to hell. They say they're not anti-Israel. They want to divest all the things to do with Israel. U.S. Israel, go to hell from the river to the sea. Clear out, obliterate Israel. We're not anti-Semitic. And we're not fools. I got news for you, kids. We're not fools. We're not fools. Lived a little bit longer, seen a little bit more about life than you. We're not fools. So don't insult our intelligence. Some commentary. All right, Brad Card and Associates, one of our political analysts and all-stars as we crank it up on a Wednesday. Good morning, Brad. Game 2 tonight, Florida. I know you're flying down in the Lear. I love Carlo. I love Carlo. I saw some video of him getting off the bus the other day. You know what? A lot of people didn't notice the other night. I think it was before the Toronto Maple Leafs overtime win in Boston that the coach made them all stay in a hotel together, shut off the phones, going to focus. Interesting. You can do that with professional hockey players. Try that with other sports. Yeah, but kudos to the coach. Yeah, kudos to the coach for trying something and calling out. And he called out. Wait a minute, hold on. He called out Pasta. He said, "You got to play a little better. We get a little more out of you." Yep. Hey, before we get to politics for a moment, have you seen? Knowing you have because you're a huge Patriots fan. Have you seen on Netflix the Brady roast? Holy mackerel! Did that blow political correctness and inclusive and wokeness out of the water? I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching with Brady's parents sitting there. I know. I mean, I I was stunned. I When Gronkowski and Julian Edelman are sitting there with their eyes open, like Kevin Hart's going on, or the Jeff, what's his name, who does the roast. I mean, they were even cracking jokes about Aaron Hernandez, who took his own life in prison. I mean, come on. I mean, Jeff Ross, yeah. And Giselle and her karate boyfriend and the divorce. I mean, Brady was crying over that divorce. It's a terrible, some of that sacred ground. Wow. Whoa. Oh, I know. You know what? Brad reminds me of. Remember when Andrew Dice Clay was in his prime? Oh, hickory dickory. I mean, you're not even on that bad with me on the golf course when I slice one. You don't. You're not that bad. All right. Well, one time you did in Florida accuse me of taking your rangefinder and it was stuck to your cart and you chased me all around the golf course with every other word. All right, Brad. So we had John Decker on White House correspondent. Basically sounds like Representative Margie Taylor Greene. Trump has told her back off this Johnson push. Mm. But you're chairing her. You're advising her reelection campaign. Yeah, yeah. Eh, Let me. Do you this story that's been 48 hours now? It doesn't surprise me about Social Security. At some point here is they're running out and Medicare. Sound well. I'm going to ask you. Well, how do we forget Biden and Trump? How do we save it? If you were Yeah, but no one wants. They don't want to lose votes because one side will say if you address it, you want to cut it, you want to get rid of it. Right. I know. Yeah. Well, what we need. Right. Right. Or yeah. Or no, no, no. Yeah. No, but hold on. Everyone's living longer, not everyone, but some people, God forbid, don't have a choice. But I'm saying most people, where America's aging longer. Look how old the president is. And so, just talking about after a certain year, the retirement age moves to 70, for example. How much money would that save? You made a good point. If someone doesn't need a social security check. If a couple's planned and done better, they don't need that 4 or 5 grand a month. They can opt out and maybe get a tax break or something. I mean, give them an incentive for opting out. Uh, yeah, yeah. But again, common sense. Common sense. Hey, what are you hearing in Washington about the governor's race taking shape here at home, New Hampshire? Are you hearing anything on the Democrat side between Cindy Warmington and Joyce Craig on who and when this is going to really get heated and who has an upper hand? All right, Brad, I'll let you go on that. And game two tonight, I don't expect a 5-1 win. I take it. I think Florida was just a little flat from the layoff, but who knows? And the last time we saw that was a guy named Tim Thomas. Do you notice the other night at the tense moment, the Toronto series, it was just tight, and they had a tight shot of Swayman, and he lifted his mask up. He was smiling. He Did you see that? Did you see that? He's having a blast. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it was like Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs in the middle of the game. It's tight. He makes a completion. He's smiling like a little kid. When you can hit that zone, when you hit that zone, that's pretty cool. All right, Brad, make it a good one. Boy Scouts of America rebranding to Scouting America. Another interesting story. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse for Nation. You need to take a break. We'll come back with the illustrious one, J Dog. He's been far too quiet this morning. Back in a moment. All right, J Dog. Thank you. How you doing? You're a little quiet today. It's Wednesday. You're usually only on Mondays. You just don't like the weather change. Go, jump on a plane, go down and visit your high school buddy, and go to the Bruins game. So they're called Sunrise, Florida, where they're playing tonight. I know, but you can do a get an RV and an Airstream. All right, I know. It's just fun. There's nothing like playoff hockey. I'm sorry. Yep. I love it because for the most part, the referees try to stay out of it. For the most part, it's up and down. Follow the whistles. It's up and down. It's up and down. Hey, coming up the next hour, some of our live guests include Governor Chris Sununu talking on some of the news of the day right here. Also, tomorrow morning, Representative Chris Pappas, he and a group of Democrats want President Joe Biden to do more to secure the southern border. That will be tomorrow morning. I was thinking because I again, you've heard me say often why I respect real history, and I just look at some of the craziness in this country. It's really been. I mean, I don't mean to overcredit, but how can you undercredit Dan Crenshaw, the Navy SEAL from Texas, member of Congress? He wrote a book about this, about the woke stuff before people even. I remember playing golf with a buddy once. I give him credit. He was kind of he's older than me, and I said, "You've heard about all this woke stuff?" He said, "What?" So Crenshaw wrote this book talked about this woke stuff, particularly on college campuses, long before it was cool to talk about it. And he says it really kind of came to a head. It started about 2012. Um, and he's right. But when I look at history, because part of what bugs me in the past is people don't know their history, and they really should. And I would even make the case here at home. You've heard me say, but we don't say it enough. The history here, for example, no offense to Maine, Vermont, certainly any other, and I would say Boston because Boston gets way too much credit. Massachusetts gets way too much credit in terms of history. And I'm from the area. I grew up 11 miles north of Boston. What I'm saying is the history in New Hampshire, the history, for example, just in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I mean, I know the shops and the restaurants and the bars and all the that's cool in Portsmouth. It's become one of the hottest small cities in the Northeast to spend a day in a weekend or vacation or move to. Not cheap, by the way, but spend a day or two over there and just walk around the cemeteries, the signs, and the history. Read about a guy named William Whipple, John Langdon, the earlier Sons of Portsmouth. Read about what happened at the fort in Newcastle 2 years before the Battle of Lexington. First overt act of the American Revolution. Look at the Liberty flagpole down by Prescott Park. Now, what happens is, and it happened where I grew up, in the Salem, Mass area, for example, people would always come up, and we grew up in the Swampscott Marblehead area, but Salem was sort of the three together, and they'd always want to kind of come up and go to the beach or go get a lobster or something on the ocean in the summer, and then go to Salem. And the PBD Essex Museum is terrific. And my earlier novels I wrote, my books about Rebecca Nurse and Rebecca's Rising and the whole witch trial stuff. My Salem 6 Rebecca's Rising or Rebecca's Rising. Stay tuned on that, by the way. But that's all I'm talking about. The history is amazing in those areas. The early maritime history, the ship captains that would in the 1800s, all those houses around like near the Hawthorne Hotel, Essex Street in Salem, and there's some in Portsmouth. Some of the country's first millionaires were sea captains. True in Portsmouth, shipbuilders and sea captains. Salem, they were leaving back in the 1800s, gone for a year and a half, trading around the world. They'd go to Canton, China. I mean, they went all around the world and they'd come back, and the Peabody Essex Museum is a wonderful place for that. But in Portsmouth, look at the history. Don't edit it. Don't sanitize it. Look at the history, even with the flaws, what we can learn from it. Um, the underground network for African Americans in Portsmouth, very recognizable. And you're walking now, the homes, the signs on the houses. Um, Down on Hunking Street, Tobias Lear's home, where the Secretary for President George Washington. It's just an amazing history in Portsmouth, and we can learn from our history. So when you move the clock forward to the 1960s, which is what this these universities and colleges, this chaos feels like to me, calling police. I didn't think I'd see the day where protesters at the University of New Hampshire in Durham, where a couple of my kids went, beautiful facility, beautiful campus. People come from all over the country in New Hampshire to go there. Wonderful campus. Would be protesting, calling campus police or police piggies, like the 1960s. It's just you want to forgive those who are ignorant, but it's hard sometimes, right? Forgive them for they don't know better. But when you look at history in the 60s, and then you look at today, you can learn a lot about history. And I think the thing we need to do is sometimes put a perspective on all this. I mean, even the 60s protesters eventually became taxpayers, some of them anyway, and started driving nice vehicles and wanting nice homes, and everything they protested against, they became. Um, but this group, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But remember that 9 out of 10 students aren't out there calling the police at Durham pigs, and they're not out there chanting from the river to the sea, and they're not saying, well, what was the quote? I want to be accurate. They say they're not anti-Semitic, but if you check out Graham's New Hampshire Journal from recently, they'll say, U.S. Israel go to hell. U.S. Israel go to hell. That's one of their chants. Death to U.S. Death to Israel. But we're not anti-Semitic. So stop your BS. You can't fool us. Okay, you are what you are. But as I said before, and the reason why I mentioned history and the real sense of it is much of this behavior, this learned or social media spread or paid for behavior or whatever this movement is, it's downright anti-US. It's as much as anti-American. They don't like this country because they've had some professors, I'm not saying as much here, but places like Columbia University have been telling them that America stinks, America sucks, we're the problem. Your parents are the problem with that big house, you're the problem. American military, the police are bad, America's bad. They'll tell you that. And indirectly, they're basically, I don't know, go live in Tehran. Tell me how that works for you. Go live in Beijing. Go live in Moscow. Go live in North Korea if we're so bad. But they won't. They just trash this place and tear it down. Now, America can take it. And we may even play, because they were talking about the old flag. Johnny Cash is the American flag. We can take it. But sometimes it makes you want to just throw up. 603-228-2080. It's tough to forgive it, well, you can kind of overlook ignorance to a point. All right, coming up in the next hour, Governor Chris Sununu and more. Good morning, Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Back in a few.